Here's something that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit lately. There was a comment on my AirPods Pro 2 video. By the way, for those of you wondering, I was swiping on both sides to try to go back. It didn't make it into the cut, but I did try both sides. I do know the correct swipe for back gesture on iOS. I kind of went on a rant about some unintuitive, to me, elements of iOS. I get very frustrated by the absence of a back button because having a universal way to go back just seems very obvious to me. And there was one comment in particular that I was kind of sitting there going, I'll just show you guys on the doc because I put it in there. It's like, is it me? Or is it the children who are wrong? Basically, the quote was, "It's obstinance not to do things that are better for the user." That's what I said in the video. And this is the response. Just say you, Linus. You're not every user. Just because it's something you don't like doesn't mean it's the correct way. You do this nonsense with every video about iOS, macOS, and sometimes Linux. If something isn't the way you're used to doing things, then it's incorrect.
As if he doesn't do it with Windows too.
Also, the back gestures on the other side. Like I said, I know that. I tried both ways. It wasn't working. If it isn't the way I'm used to, then it's wrong. You have a massive sense of entitlement. So I guess I'm trying to figure out how to reconcile this because on the one hand, it's my job to advocate for things that are better. And from my point of view, there are things that are objectively better. One of the ones I always come back to, even though a lot of people still don't really seem to appreciate the value of it, is T9 dialing. T9 dialing is objectively faster. Pull out your phone. I'll pull out my phone at the same time. I will be done calling before you are done. It is actually faster. And the best thing about how it's faster is that it doesn't interfere with any of the other ways of dialing. You could still dial by numbers and have things autocomplete like that, or you could still look up a contact list. So my way of dialing, which is objectively faster, also objectively does not interfere with however you want to do things. I don't see that as a sense of entitlement. And so I guess I get kind of lost sometimes because I'm supposed to be saying, yeah, here is something that would make this better. I was in a piece of software where there was no obvious visual indication of how to go back to where I was before. And yeah, it frustrated me because it often frustrates me because there are often situations where no, Apple's way of handling back on iOS is not always consistent. Sometimes it's a swipe back, except when it isn't. Sometimes there's a thing up in the top left corner, except that's obviously a bad place to have it because most of the world is right-handed, meaning that most of the world holding their phone in their dominant hand has to reach all the way across it, all the way to the top in order to activate that or use a second hand. It seems to me that it should at least be an option to have back somewhere where you can actually reach it without reaching a second hand over to your phone. And I guess what's challenging for me is I don't know why that bothers people. That I should think that should be a choice.
I mean, it got 0 replies and 0 likes.
Yeah, it's not the only. It's the only reason that I'm bringing it up. It's not the only one that I've seen like this, and so I guess I'm struggling a little bit because I'm not sure what to do. Should I not speak my mind then?
No.
Should I just let it go? Should I let go that Apple doesn't have a back button, even though it's wrong? Should I let go that they don't have T9 dialing, even though they could probably have a dev implemented in literally an afternoon?
People are going to get annoyed. I think you remember like way back in the day when somebody sent me a death threat because I reviewed something negatively. Not that I ever thought it was like real.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but like people are going to get really defensive about stuff. And if this individual person is hyper used to it, so due to their familiarity, disagrees, they might find a different way to try to explain that where they seem, I don't know. They might be using that feeling to justify this approach. But you're a reviewer. I think you have to do that type of stuff. And you're going to lose some people because of it.
Sure.
But that's fine. They can just go find a reviewer that feels more similarly to how they feel.
Someone says iOS has T9 dialing. Are you sure? When did they add it?
If that's true, you would just made him a happy man.
No, they don't seem to have it. You can get a third-party app, like a third-party dialer.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah, that's no. So iOS does not have T9 dialing.
Also, especially when you have gigantic, borderline unlimited development teams, like companies at this scale are able to have, I'm not necessarily saying they do, but are able to have, I think an option, even if quite buried, would be great. I think the average user is not going to change defaults on practically anything.
Yep.
Especially if you don't like prompt them or let them know that it's there. So if you have some menu that's like navigation options or something,
right?
And you throw like swiping from the side will always go back or whatever,
right?
As an option in there, I think that's a easy solution that hurts no one. So why not do it?
Yeah, I don't know. I went through something similar when I forget which car review it was, but I complained that it didn't allow you to set cruise control under, I think, about 50 kilometers an hour. And the use case that I brought up for that was school zones. And the number of people who were very angry at me for thinking that that was just an obviously good feature was kind of, it took me by surprise.
Oh, yeah, I don't get it.
Like they were extremely angry because I should be paying attention in a school zone and not in cruise control, right? Like I'm serious. I'm actually not overselling how angry some people were about this. And I was kind of looking at it going, right, but if I set my cruise control at the right speed right at the beginning of the school zone, then what I can do is I can not be watching my speed because I don't have to worry about
more on the road.
A speed trap or anything like that. I can be at exactly the right speed. Not only that, but I can take my foot off my accelerator and I can cover my brake pedal.
Brake. It makes a lot of sense to me.
It is objectively better.
Yeah.
And so is the problem the way that I am presenting it? Is the fact that I say it is objectively better, is that the problem?
Maybe, but I still don't necessarily think you should change that. Because
but people are still misunderstanding. I thought I explained it so clearly. Who watches their feet while driving? Nobody. Nobody's talking about that.
Watching your feet.
What are you talking about?
So I don't think you should concern yourself with people that interpreted everything you just said as watching your feet.
Okay.
I think that's my argument. I think there's always going to be people that hear incorrectly. I think there's always going to be people that take a countering stance for whatever reason. I think you just got to ignore it and keep pushing forward.
But apparently my point is moronic. Speed should not be locked on in a school zone. Why not?
It's also
Do you not drive the speed limit?
It's also not locked. If he brakes.
Yeah, I'm covering the brake. I'm ready. I'm dialed in.
It doesn't keep gassing while he's braking.
Do you not know what cruise control does? Maybe that's a misunderstanding.
we both come to that conclusion at the same time. But yeah, maybe that's the problem. The car isn't gonna keep trying to go at the same speed if he brakes. It's gonna let him stop. It's not going to keep going.
Yeah, there's still people like really, really misunderstanding this. How gigantic is the school zone that you would engage cruise control? It's not about that.
It's not about the length.
It's about covering the brake.
Yes.
It's about those like fractions of a second of time that it takes to move your foot from the accelerator to the brake in an emergency situation. It's not about the speed limit. It's about the situation that you're in and the desire to have a higher level of awareness.
Defensive driving.
Exactly. It's not about whatever you guys are talking about.
Someone in Philippine chat mentioned it's not autopilot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just setting a speed. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. So I think what we need to talk about then is how do I present these things better? Right?
Someone in Philippine chat said, LOL, Linus, you're letting yourself get trolled so hard. This is a problem.
No.
I hated when trolling and trolled entered the lexicon of internet speech because it's such a scapegoat for such trash behavior by so many people. The amount of people that I am 100% certain were totally serious and then figured out that they were just totally ridiculously wrong and then went, ah, I be the trolling, is very high. It gets used for that. Yes, there's legitimate trolling. I have engaged in it. He engages in it daily. I am 100% certain. And it can be very funny and like entertaining, whatever, when used in the right way. But like, I don't think this is that. Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of takes that, without an utterly unfamiliar type of logic, just could not possibly be conceived of as a troll. They just are really, really, really bad. Like, the road's going right and they turn left, right? And as someone who's read, I promise you, 100 times more YouTube comments than you have, right? I've seen everything. And there's like a spectrum of likelihood that someone is trolling, and sometimes, no, it really isn't that. It actually is just not getting it at all. Like, why would it occur to someone to troll about something as sensible as, I would like to have my foot covering the brake while I'm in a school zone just in case a kid runs in front of my car? Why would you troll about that? That's like, it's like trolling someone because they're like, yeah, this cup shouldn't let water through the bottom. Like, what? No, it should. Like, it's not funny. So maybe that's it. I don't know. So then what do I? Yeah, guilty logic. You're right. People think criticism of a product they use is criticism of them. But if I recall correctly, it was the review of the Chevy Volt. So I don't think a lot of people were using it.
Oh, man.
Whatever. I'm Volt gang.
So someone said, and I don't know how true this is or anything, but Laddie says, psychologically, braking a little is perceived as more significant than lifting off the gas a little. The argument is that when driving through those situations, people tend to slow down a bit more, which is safer, but on cruise control, they won't brake enough. They won't brake because it doesn't feel enough to brake for.
What?
Don't know.
What does that even mean?
I think they're saying that you are less, if you see something happening, you're less likely to brake than to slow down. If you're unsure if the thing that is happening is dangerous for you to be going your current speed towards. Like if you see something moving behind a car, I think they're saying that you're less, and you're like, oh, they could dart out to the street, or it could be a kid or whatever. I think that they're saying
then you're a terrible, terrible driver.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's what they're saying.
So
I have come to a complete stop because some kid was playing behind a car and I just didn't trust it. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of people asking what the devil T9 dialing is. Basically, think about it like autocomplete while you're dialing a number. Okay. So, except that normally if if you live somewhere and have acquaintances who live near you, you would all have kind of the same area code, right? So you might type in 604 and that's going to autocomplete 80% of the people in your address book, right? So that kind of autocomplete for dialing is not super useful. So I feel like the way most people probably dial these days is either through pre-programmed favorites, where you can just, hold one of the buttons or whatever and dial them, using their voice control, or going into their contacts list, searching or scrolling, and calling someone from there. T9 dialing is amazing because what it lets you do, unfortunately, I can't really show you my screen because the numbers show up as part of the preview, is instead of dialing the number, you dial the letters. So you know how on your dial pad, there's little letters that correspond to every number? So if I wanted to call Luke, I just type 585 and swipe. It is fewer interactions. It's really, really fast. And it means that even if I have a ton of contacts, it's no more than 3 to 4 interactions right on the dial pad, and I can immediately call someone. That's why it's good. It takes away absolutely nothing from anyone else's preferred way to use it. And like I said before, and this is why it's so frustrating to me, it's like not allowing people to put icons anywhere they want on their desktop, right? It costs Apple nothing to implement it. But they don't, because why? I don't know. Oh, someone's saying call Luke is too hard. Well, it's, what, you want to use voice control all the time? No, it's not always appropriate. And voice control is freaking terrible.
I was going to say, I never use it because it tends to call the wrong person, and that's really annoying.
Okay, you guys want to hear me go off on Google instead of Apple? This is fun. Watch this. Okay, here we go. Call Jake Tivey.
Sorry, who do you want to call?
Look at this. Call Jake Tivey.
Calling Jake Tivey. Mobile.
I said the exact same bloody thing both times. The first time it goes Jake TV. Now, the way it should work is Google should take that input, right? And it should go, Jake, I understood. Is there anything that could be kind of close
in this address book
to Tivey? Mm-hmm. And it won't do it. I've got another really good one. This one
feels like the
It
feels like the searching in Windows problem, where when you search in Windows, if it's not 100% certain, it immediately just bings it. And it's like, maybe you should have looked at local files.
Yeah. Okay, this is a really good one. Call Hoffman.
This can be like Hotman or something.
You've got a couple of choices. Which would you like?
Got a bunch of Google results for Hoffman and Son Limited, Rob Hoffman, Realtor.
It's trying to Google Maps him somewhere.
You want to know why? Because Hoffman's name is spelled with 2 N's at the end. All you have to do is check what's in my f***ing address book and find something kind of close. Do you know how often I try to call my wife? And I am not able to. You'd think it would contextually, AI who I usually call and figure out who I'm talking about. So there's someone named Yvonne or some business called Yvonne something that if I just say call Yvonne, occasionally it'll dial. So if I don't pay attention, which is dangerous when I'm driving and stuff, right? If I don't pay attention to what number it says it's calling, it'll call this other random thing probably 1 out of every 10 times. But it gets even better. Okay, easy solution. Call Yvonne Ho, right? I'm sorry. There's no number for Yvonne Home.
There's one that's real close. Someone in chat said, yeah, it should prioritize your local contacts. Yeah.
Of course
like I said,
it should.
it's the same thing as the Windows search problem. It's the exact same issue.
So this is the kind of stuff that I don't know how to handle, right? Because other than getting angry about how obvious this problem is and how obvious the solution is, and staying angry forever because it's still not fixed, isn't it my job to...
I think there's always going to be a certain minimum amount of alienation because people are going to misinterpret or disagree, and disagree is completely fine. Like someone might think that not prioritizing looking at local files on Windows and not prioritizing local contacts when trying to voice call someone is the right way. I'd be very interested in hearing that argument, but considering they both work that way, that argument's got to exist somewhere. I have no idea how it makes any sense, but it's got to exist somewhere.
And guys,
so maybe they disagree.
Adding nicknames like wife or like changing people's names in your contact book to no, that's a bad solution. That's a stupid solution. That's a manual solution in an automated world. Like that's not how it should work. You can tell Google who your wife is and call my wife. No, that's no. I respect your opinion, but I believe that Google, with their experience, could probably engineer a superior solution. And yes, I'm aware that you can say, call Yvonne Home Mobile. The problem is that sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes it'll still do the home. It'll grab the word home first. The one that really makes me more angry than anything is when I'm dictating to the Google Assistant and it hears me just fine. It is exactly what I wanted. Call James Stribe. And then it's like, sorry, can't find James Strube or what, because it just doesn't know that name. And it's like, no. Phonetically, you were fine. Everything was fine. And then you were like, oh, you surely you couldn't have meant that. Even though I have a contact in my contact list that matches what you had perfectly. You would think you would check, right? Because like fuzzy logic, right? You would check the 90 and then the 85 and then the 75% certainty
if they prioritize local storage, or in this case, local contacts. The second you say call as your prime first word, it should immediately prioritize local contacts. But yeah, I feel like I've said the same thing like a billion times, but same as the Windows problem, the Windows one is almost worse because even if you have a perfect match, it will first look online and then look local. So if you type it and then press enter quickly, it'll just Bing search it, which is so annoying.
Yeah, that one bothers me.
But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think you just got to keep doing it, and I think you would just keep doing it anyways. So I don't think it matters.
Yeah, Uninfamous Alex says, I believe it's in how the message is delivered. People will always expect you to come to them. So you stating that something is objectively better, even when it is, can come across as arrogant or otherwise. I think that's fair. So
that's probably fair, but I don't necessarily think you should change it.
Well, yeah, what is it? You catch more flies with honey than vinegar or whatever it is. So do I just have to like be nicer about it?
Sometimes you don't want that fly to have honey.
Should I just say your stance that Apple should not build features that are better for some people is valid, but I respectfully wish that they would build features that are better for some people?
Is it valid though?
I mean, it's valid to them.
No.
I mean, I don't know, man.
People might not appreciate my stance on all that, but I don't know. I think sometimes you lose people, and I think sometimes it's worth it.
Meat Ready to Eat says, I'll play devil's advocate here. Having a name at all is a manual solution in an automated world. So adding wife in the relationship box is the same as putting a name in the name box. Disagree. Actually, a lot of my contact list is automatic because I use Google for work. So
yeah, it gets populated by...
Yeah, it just gets populated.
Yeah.
And the more that we can automate, the better. So any excuses that we make for not automating things properly, I think is just a setback, right? Like, why do we accept it?
Yeah. Yeah, like if I email someone and they email me back, I don't actually know at what point in that chain this happens, but if there's email exchanges with someone, they're added to my contacts. It happens.
Yeah.
And I want that. That's good.
Cork 1947 says, no, F the haters. Accessibility and inclusiveness is something that every dev should strive for. Anyone who disagrees is wrong. Okay, but I'm not gonna win any friends that way.
No, but I agree. It's great.
I need people to like me.
Yeah.
Or at least tolerate me.
Sometimes, as someone who works with developers on a platform, sometimes it is very technically expensive to incorporate those things. But we are currently talking about a platform that is at a scale where their technical powerhouse behind it is immense. And they could absolutely do these things. And it wouldn't be a big deal.
Right.